Dunkirk review. Christopher Nolan's apocalyptic war epic is his best film so far. This article is more than 7 years old. Nolan eschews war porn for a powerful and superbly crafted disaster movie, starring Kenneth Branagh, Tom Hardy, and a decent Harry Styles with a story to tell. L. Britain's Great Pyrrhic Defeat, or Inverse Victory of 1940, has been brought to the screen as a terrifying, shattering spectacle by Christopher Nolan. He plunges you into the chaotic evacuation of the British expeditionary force from northern France after the catastrophic Battle of Dunkirk, helped by the now legendary flotilla of small civilian craft. It is part disaster movie, part compressed war epic, and alien appropriate for these Brexit times. Nolan's Dunkirk has that kind of blazing big-screen certainty that I last saw on James Cameron's Titanic or Paul Greengrass' United 93. It is very different from his previous feature. The bafflingly overhyped sci-fi convolution Interstellar, this is a powerful, superbly crafted film with a story to tell, avoiding war porn in favor of something desolate and apocalyptic. A beachscape of shame littered with soldiers zombified by defeat, a grimly male world with hardly any women on screen. It is Nolan's best film so far. It also has Hans Zimmer's best musical score, an eerie, keening, groaning accompaniment to a nightmare. Switching finally to Quasi-Alger variations for the deliverance itself, Zimmer creates a continuous pantanal lament, which imitates the dive bomber scream and queasy turning of the tides. And it works in counterpoint to the deafening artillery and machine gun fire that pretty much took the fillings out of my teeth and sent them in a shrapnel fusillade all over the cinema auditorium. The film is, of course, on a massive Nolan-esque scale. Dunkirk is traditionally seen in terms of a miraculous underdog littleness that somehow redeemed the disaster. The plucky small boats countered the memory of a British army dwarfed by Wehrmacht strategy and a British establishment humiliated by the suspicion that it was only Hitler, miscalculation, or mysterious realpolitik in halting the German advance that permitted the evacuation in the first place. A different kind of Dunkirk movie might have included high-commanded scenes in Berlin, showing the generals arguing with the Fuhrer about precisely this. Maybe Nolan didn't want his film hijacked by a lot of satirical fact-subtitle YouTubers. The event itself entered Britain, its pop-cultural bloodstream after the war by way of the opening titles 2TV's Dad's Army, with its Nazi map arrows pushing north, and the Flanagan theme inspired by Leslie Norman, its 1958 film Dunkirk, starring John Mills and Richard Attenborough. But Nolan is not having any morale-raising laughter or chirpiness. His disaster is big, stakes are high, the anxiety unbearable. We are forced into eardrum-perforating action straight away. A squatty named Tommy scrambles desperately to the beach through the Dunkirk streets under heavy fire and seas. The bad dream panorama in front of him. Hundreds of thousands of stranded French and British soldiers waiting all over the sand. Corpses are being buried there. There are no ships to rescue them, and apparently, no air cover to prevent them from being picked off. Tommy is to come into contact with fellow soldier Alex. Meanwhile, RAF pilot Ferrier is engaging the enemy overhead and taking desperate risks with fuel. A grizzled naval officer played by Kenneth Branagh, channeling Jack Hawkins in The Cruel Sea, broodingly scans the horizon. And on the home front, AMR Dawson, laconically played by Mark Rylance, takes his little cruiser, joins the People's Armada, encounters a traumatized officer, and endures a terrible sacrifice, which he lives to demythologized and falsified by the press. In military terms, Dunkirk is almost entirely static for most of its running time. The battle is over before the film has begun, and there is no narrative context of the sort offered in Leslie Norman's version. Nolan surrounds his audience with chaos and horror from the outset. Amazing images and dazzlingly accomplished set pieces on a huge 70mm screen, particularly the pontoon crammed with soldiers extending into the churning sea, exposed to enemy aircraft. It is an architectural expression of doomed homeward yearning. There is a tremendous image when some of the soldiers manage to scramble aboard a destroyer and are welcomed with tea and that now vanished treat. Bread and jam and so tiny rectangles of red surreally speckle the grand khaki picture. It is also persuasively horrible when soldiers wait by the surf's edge, which has become a lapping, scummy froth, as if these are the survivors of some horrible natural disaster. Christopher Nolan might have found some inspiration from the Dunkirk scene in Joe Wright's 2007 movie Atonement, but otherwise, he brings his own colossal and very distinctive confidence to this story. It's a visceral piece of filmmaking.